Session.
Right, the record reflects we are back in session. Parties and counsel are present. All members of our jury office are present. Our witnesses back on the witness stand. And you may continue your examination.
Thank you. So we were on February 16th. It's the day you and Detective Fisk went down to, what do you call it, South Bay, San Diego?
Yes.
Okay. And while you were there, did you attempt to, well, you already testified, you obtained surveillance video from various places where the car was located?
Where, in the surrounding businesses of where the car was located, yes.
Thank you. What else did you do there at that location?
I contacted several security guards, but specifically initially we contacted 2 security guards in the, I keep forgetting the name of the complex, it's something village, San Ysidro Village Shopping Center, I believe it is, where the trooper was initially parked. And I went to the security guards, asked them to, I interviewed them, to ask them what their observations were when they started, everything that a law enforcement officer would ask. When did you start work? When do you finish work? What did you see? Did you notice the trooper there? How do you guys tow cars? How long until you can tow cars? What time did you tow this car? And those 2 guys did the interviews, and then I asked them, going to the surveillance video, I said, why don't you walk with me and take me to every single store, and we're going to look at every single eve, find every single camera, and see if there's a camera that's facing into the parking lot that would have caught entry or exit of a vehicle coming in, or even whatever it covers into the lot. And then you guys introduce me to the managers, owners, and I will obtain surveillance video from the applicable businesses. And I did.
Okay, so those security guards that you interviewed, did you see them using any kind of mini cart or golf cart or anything to get around?
Not in that parking lot. I later go to another parking lot with other security guards, and they did, across the street.
Different security company?
Different security company.
You recognize what that depicts?
I do.
What are we looking at there?
Okay, well, it's the far south end of San Diego County. This is where 805 and 5 merge. If you continue south on 5, you're going to hit the U.S.-Mexico border, maybe, I'm guessing, but I'm going to say quarter mile, half mile away from this location, from right here. This is a shopping center. This is the shopping center you were questioning me about, where the 2 security guards walk around. The trooper was parked right in this area.
And you're indicating for the record right underneath where it says Guitar Center.
That's right.
Okay. At the time, was that Guitar Center?
No, it was Paint Zone. I think it was little girls, females clothing, kind of.
Okay. Well, what else do we see?
So this is the shopping center with the 2 security guards that walk on foot. They monitor all this parking area for vehicles illegally parked and do security guard business. When I referred to the other across the street, this is a street I'm talking about, I also went over here and this is a really large complex, larger than this, and it's called Las Americas. It's an outlet shopping center, still is to this day, and the U.S.-Mexico border wall is on the far south side of that shopping center. The security guards in this lot, I did much the same thing. I told them why I was there. I told them there was a missing person whose vehicle was parked over on this side. Could they show me any security cameras that may have covered any of the accesses along this street? And they did supply me they had a very extensive, when I was sitting in their security office, they actually had monitors everywhere with the cameras all in the security department, where this side of the street was all just individual stores with their typical security monitors exclusive to them. This one, they have like a dispatch center. While we were in there, he did show me a surveillance camera that was pretty much, I'm going to get, not guess, I know it's here, but it's somewhere in this area.
You're pointing to the right of it where it says Nike.
Nike, it's in that area. It's at the far, this would be the south, well, the east end of their outlet mall. And that camera continually panned back and forth. It was not stationary. It just kept on moving. And I said, I want that camera too. So they gave me surveillance footage, which did cover, it's hard to see here, but I think this is it. There's a turnoff of Camino de la Plaza that goes into the shopping center, and I believe it's right there. There's multiple places that you can come in and out of this to get into this lot and to get where the McStay vehicle was parked, but their camera did cover this one.
Okay. And I just want to make it a little bit clearer record. When you said the much larger complex, that's going to be on the bottom left of that photograph.
That's
the
all
street,
of this.
yeah, and the streets indicated as Camino de la Plaza.
Yes.
You viewed all of those different, well, how about up here where it says San Ysidro Outlet Las Americas, the store there, where that is?
Are you asking me about the name?
Yeah, did you, what was the store then, if you remember?
I don't know. The stores that I remember because they were important to me, I got videos surveillance. Well, this one I obviously remember being the pink zone because the car was parked right in front of the pink zone. This is they called it a duty-free store.
That's to the, where you're pointing to where, to the left of the G where it says Guitar Center.
That's right. I did get surveillance video from there. I went to this is a bank in the corner. I did talk to them and I went into the building and their cameras were interior. They didn't have any exterior cameras to the parking lot. This was not a Marshall's. I think it was a Ross back then. I did get surveillance video from them. I don't remember what this was, and it could have been that name back then, but they had nothing for me. And then this, I believe, was a Kmart, and they too gave me surveillance video.
Okay. So where it says Marshall's back then, it was a Ross?
Yes.
Do you recall?
Yes,
Okay. Did you review those videotapes?
I did.
Was there any time frame that you were given? Or requested and or were given?
I did. I don't specifically remember the hours, but I knew that the vehicle was towed sometime just before 11:30 p.m. So that was, I imagine I ran until midnight. And on the early side, I don't remember when I started.
Okay. Did you see anything of any evidentiary value on any of those surveillance cameras?
From the blocks?
Yes.
No.
Turning your attention to the next day, February 17th of 2010, do you recall what investigative steps you took that day?
I did. I do.
What'd you do?
I got a hold of the defendant on the telephone and requested an interview with him in person.
Now, the telephone call to the defendant, that was actually by Detective Fisk. Is that right? You recall that?
I do.
Okay. Have you reviewed that recording?
I have.
And was it conversation setting up the interview between Detective Fisk and the defendant?
She set up the interview with the three of us.
Okay. And did you recognize the defendant's voice after hearing it and seeing him in person?
Yes.
Okay. And the defendant, for the record, is the person sitting to your left at the end of counsel table, the front counsel table, wearing the blue shirt and the purple tie?
Correct.
Okay. In listening to the recording of Detective Fisk setting up that meeting, did the defendant tell you how long it would take for him to get from his house in Rancho Cucamonga to Fallbrook?
Yes.
Did he say it would be an hour and 23 minutes, give or take some time? Or did he say it would take an hour?
Exactly an hour.
Did the defendant come to the Fallbrook station or to your office, or did you go to him?
I came to him.
Where did you go?
We went to, he lived in essentially a condominium type or townhouse type complex in Rancho Cucamonga. I don't remember the address, but I arrived and he requested that we did not do the interview inside of his residence because his wife and his child or children were home. So he requested that we use they had like most apartments and condo places, they had a community clubhouse area. And we went in there and did the interview in there.
Did you later identify who who he referred to as his wife was?
Yes,
Was that Catherine Jarvis?
yes.
Was that interview with the defendant at that residence recorded?
Yes.
I'll show you what's been marked as exhibit number 584. Ask you if you recognize that. Did you initial that earlier today?
I did.
And was that a recording of the interview you had with the defendant?
It is.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as 584A. While you were reviewing that recording, did you refer to a transcript?
Yes.
And is 540A a transcript of
584.
I'm sorry, 584A.
This one.
584A. Is that is both the recording and the transcript a fair and accurate depiction of the conversation you had with the defendant there?
It is. You have Fisk's name spelled wrong, but
Okay.
not a big deal.
Gotta add an E, right?
Got an Andy.
What time did that interview take place?
16:26 hours. That's 4:26 p.m.
During that interview, did the defendant provide you any documents?
He did.
Show you what's been marked as exhibit number 419. Ask you if you recognize that.
I do.
What is that?
It is a email from Joseph McStay at eipfountains@yahoo.com to the defendant Chase Merritt. And it's dated Monday, February 1st, 2010.
When the defendant gave you that, did he attempt to explain what the email was about and what was going on with the email?
He did.
I'll show you what's been marked as exhibit 588. I'm going to take it out of the sleeve for now and ask you if you recognize that.
Vaguely. I do remember it.
Okay. What is it?
That's the question I didn't want you to ask.
Oh, okay. Did the defendant give you a spreadsheet?
He did.
Okay. Does that look like the spreadsheet he gave you?
This is what he gave me,
Okay.
but I don't remember specifically what it entitled.
Right. Now, at this point on the 17th, at 4, almost 5 in the afternoon, how long had you been working on this case?
Non-stop.
Since the 15th at 7 p.m.?
Yes, with the exception of going home and catching seriously 5 hours sleep, maybe.
Publish exhibit 419.
I still have your transcript and recording up here.
Okay. And I'll publish the first page of 588. At least the upper left-hand corner. The type is small. at the conclusion of that interview, or towards the end of that interview, did you obtain from the defendant a, what we call a buccal swab?
Yes,
What is that? Can you describe that for us, please?
yes. And once again, going towards, my mind had shifted, not shifted. I told you I was already concerned missing person, homicide, two different beasts. You hope the family comes back, you're getting statements, and you're hoping people tell you where these people are, but you're always concerned about the homicide. So as I'm interviewing the defendant, and not just him, other people too, I was worried about anybody who had been in the house, because I was hoping to get into the house, to do a search warrant, get into the trooper, do a search warrant. I talked with the defendant about, have you driven the trooper? He said no. I said, have you ever been in the trooper? He said yes. So I knew that there was a potential his DNA would be in that trooper, and I said, where'd you sit? Passenger side. Me and Joseph used to go play paintball. Those kind of statements. Aha, well, now I need your DNA. I need your DNA for exclusionary purposes. So when and that was my purpose, I said, well, since you said you were in the trooper and I'm about to go...
This is a narrative, Your Honor, there's no question.
I'm about to go process this trooper. I'm going to have my forensic evidence technician swab the trooper for DNA. I need to know where the defendant was or was not. And I asked him, can I voluntarily collect your DNA? And he said yes. But he said a buccal swab is simply, it's an envelope with two long Q-tips, and I wear gloves. I open the Q-tip is sterile, it's got a little plastic ring on it. I hand it to the defendant, he pops the plastic open, slides it down, puts the Q-tip between his cheek and gum, rolls it around so that I can visually see that. He himself closes it. I hold the envelope open with gloved hands. He drops the Q-tip in, and then he does it a second time for a second Q-tip. It just gives our analysts two separate samples and more DNA just to, in case one goes bad. The defendant agreed to do this voluntarily, and I collected his buccal swab.
Okay, so after he drops it into the envelope,
He drops it in.
and then what do you do with it?
I seal the envelope, not with licking it. When we close it, we tape it with I believe it, well, I actually got the buccal swab from the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department because I didn't bring it from San Diego, so I called San Bernardino Sheriff's. They sent a patrol deputy, local patrol deputy out to provide that for me. So I don't remember if the tape was red, but it was taped. It was taped shut. And then I bring it back to San Diego, and I put it into evidence under this case.
Do you write the case number on it, your San Diego case number?
I did.
And in that case, in this case, is it 100181139?
It is.
You also put the defendant's name and date of birth on that envelope.
Yes,
And was that, in this case, Charles Merritt with a date of birth of 5/2/57?
that's correct.
During the course of that interview, did the defendant describe meeting with Joseph McStay on February 4th, 2010?
He did.
Did you attempt to corroborate the fact that the meeting never took place?
I did.
And what did you do?
So he told me that it was a pretty traditional meeting, that Joseph and him talked on the phone every day, that there was some money that they had to exchange because he worked for Joseph but at his own company, and they were doing water fountains and water features together. The defendant was in charge of custom water features. Joseph was in charge of, he basically owned the company and took orders and did much more than just, Joseph wasn't involved in the building. He essentially was a builder. So he said I had to have everyday communication, money exchanges. So Joseph drove from Fallbrook, according to the defendant, to Ranch Cucamonga to meet with him at Chick-fil-A, pretty close to his residence. And I don't remember the address, but it's not far from his residence. He said that they had met there for lunch, that they ate lunch there, they were there a couple hours, they talked about work, they exchanged checks, and then he left and Joseph went home. So after the meeting I went to Chick-fil-A and I tried to obtain the video, surveillance video, and unfortunately, because of the way this what ends up being a homicide was reported, We were, whatever, it was the 17th. He claims this meeting occurred on the 4th. That's 13 days. Most businesses don't hold their, and they don't hold their video that long. Neither did Chick-fil-A. It was gone a couple days earlier than when I checked.
Now, we're on essentially day 3. Other than a little bit of sleep, you've been working the case nonstop, and so we're only highlighting certain areas. While this is going on, are you doing other things?
I still have the homicides that I'm responsible for, and this same week, I don't know if you guys are from out here in the Inland Empire, but in San Diego, the same week Chelsea King was murdered in Poway. It's a young girl, 17-year-old girl who was jogging, and a very bad man raped her and murdered her, and that pretty much, these 2 cases on top of our traditional everyday work wiped us out.
That was the week of the 15th?
It was after the 15th, I believe it was, yes. The answer is yes. It was the week of.
And that was your team as well?
Well, that pretty much took everybody away from me.
Okay. Oh, away from you, who was working this case?
Right.
Okay. Well, so during these 3 days, you're making contact with Summer's family, her sister and her mother, right?
Right.
Okay. And
A
in
lot more
particular,
than that.
I'm sorry?
A lot more than that.
A lot more people than that. Backing up, I guess, to the 16th, did you receive a call from Susan Blake?
I did.
Okay. And did Miss Blake tell you that she had gone into the Avocado Vista residence?
She did.
And what did she say about that?
That she was in there cleaning up, and Michael had, I don't believe he was in there at the time of the phone call, but she said he had come in and he had taken the computer out of Joseph's office, and I believe MacGyver was with her, helping her clean up and straighten up.
And what did you do after you learned that information on the 16th?
Well, it was disheartening, but it wasn't her fault. So going back to, I'm going to explain from a homicide detective, at no time am I going to get in the family's face and say, you can't, you won't. I'm actually asking them, give me everything you can. Tell me about your son. Tell me about Summer. Tell me about the grandkids. Give me everything. When you're dealing with a missing persons case and the family doesn't yet believe that their loved ones, and nor did I have to believe their loved ones were murdered, they're going to give you all the great stuff. My family's great, Summer's great, Joseph's great, the business is perfect, they're wealthy, the kids are a joy. That's what you get. And I know that, and that's fine. And sometime along that interview process over days, I'm going to try to wedge in there and say, I know they're fantastic people, tell me the bad things. Tell me who doesn't like them. Tell me who owes Joseph and Summer money. And that did evolve over time. It took some time. Kind of lost my train of thought on your question.
So the question was, how did you respond to Susan Blake telling you she had cleaned up in the house and Mike had taken the computer?
Okay. So Susan's a very nice lady. I'm talking to Mom, and I'm getting Mom's stuff. And she's being nice and cleaning up after her son, so when he returns, his house isn't a mess. My homicide detective personality is going, you gotta be kidding me. Don't do that. And I told her politely, stop. Stop what you're doing and leave it alone and have Michael return the computer, because she didn't know that I was working on a search warrant to get in that house. And I don't just broadcast that because it's going to scare the family to death.
Did you obtain that search warrant for the house and the trooper?
I did.
Did it include the green Dodge as well?
It did.
And did you serve or execute that search warrant on February 19th, 2010?
Yes.
When you executed or served that search warrant in Avocado Vista, did the house look different?
Yes, it did.
Tell us about that generally, please.
They had definitely cleaned up the downstairs quite a bit. The drawers in the island were no longer out. They were put away. They were back in the island. It was much cleaner. The paper I saw in the living room was picked up and gone. The round table that I pointed out in the dining room, the single chair with the calculator and coffee cup, now it was a different scenario. There was a child's beanie and some kind of child's leash system laying on the table. So things had changed quite a bit. It was cleaner.
I'm going to show you exhibit number 18. Ask you if that's a general depiction of the layout of the house, as you saw both on the 15th and on the 19th.
Yes, with the exception of what I just described. The dining area initially had one chair. When we came back for the search warrant, it now had 3 chairs.
And
Oh, I'm sorry, this one. This one I don't remember if the chairs were the same. This one is what I'm talking about. This one had 1 chair, a calculator, coffee cup, and no more adult chairs, and there was a child's chair over here. Now we come back with a search warrant, and we have 3 adult chairs around the dining room table with the contents on top of the table being a little different. I think the calculator may have still been there.
Okay, so where is the entrance on that diagram?
This is the front door right here where I have the pointer.
Okay, so you're at about 10 o'clock from the compass there on the bottom right of that exhibit?
That's right.
And you mentioned earlier there was wood piled up. Where would that be on that?
Right here. This is actually a window facing the street, and this is their driveway, this front yard. The wood was piled up right here in the living area, curing, I guess you would say.
Underneath where it says living area on that diagram?
Correct.
Okay. And you said where it says dining area was different or the same? I'm sorry.
No, it was definitely different. So when I very first came in on February 15th, there was newspapers that were laid out. When I went in with the thought, what's unusual, this going to the 15th, first time I'm in the house. I'm looking for bad guys and hurt people. But I'm also looking around and I noticed the newspapers on the ground. I thought, aha, newspapers on the ground. Did that happen because there was a fight and somebody knocked the newspaper off the table? No, that's not the way the newspapers were laid out. They were laid out more like they were covering carpet in this general area right here. And there was quite a few of them. Now I'm back on the 19th and there's no more newspapers. Or definitely not covered over the floor.
Let me show you exhibit 23 we've seen previously. That kind of depicts at least part of what we're seeing.
Yeah, the newspapers were more from right in this area, would be the left edge, and they went all the way across in front of that table on the floor. Initially.
You
They
were
aren't
just
there
looking
now.
for the record just below where that chair is in that photograph on the right hand side.
Right, and they went quite a way, all the way across from my memory to a section, an area that was bigger than the table.
Returning to exhibit 18. So that view we were just looking, correct me if I'm wrong, is right here, the front entrance.
It is, and it was cut off right here. That table leg is right there. That chair was not in that position. Well, maybe it was in that position. So the edge of your photo is right there.
Right between dining and area,
Yes.
almost.
And the area I'm talking about for the newspapers was right here.
Then if you proceed past the dining area, you indicated that this dining room table to the left of where it says family room, that looked different.
The chairs were different. Initially there was 1 chair with the table, and now on the 19th there's 3 chairs with the table. This is the futon that I spoke of that did not have a cover and had 2 little bowls of popcorn. Popcorn bowls were gone. They were cleaned up. And so was what I saw was bananas and eggs over here. They were gone. This was all cleaned up. This was no more pots and pans. There were items up here, but it wasn't the same.
Okay. So I'm going to talk you through it a little bit just for the record. It looks like to the left of that circle, or where it says family room, to the left is a circle with a table with chairs. And to the left of that's a kitchen island.
Yes,
Okay. And to the left of that is a stove.
yes,
And you indicated that above that stove area was where the eggs were,
this area. Eggs and bananas,
and those were gone.
they were gone, and popcorn.
When you first went in on the 15th, was there anything on the stove? Like oil, a pan, or anything like that, if you recall?
The answer is, I do recall and I don't recall anything being on the stove.
Bacon,
No,
grease, don't recall any of that?
no.
Sorry, backing up, I'm gonna back up to the living room area. I'm showing you exhibit number 24. Does that depict a little bit better what you were talking about where the newspapers were?
That's a lot better.
Okay.
So when I came in on February 15th, the newspapers, this would have been the upper left corner of the newspapers. They extended about down to here and went across and up here, and they were covering the entire floor right there. Now I come in, these are from my forensic evidence technician, Dennis Williams. She takes these pictures for me before we do any searching, and this is the way, the condition of the room now. And I don't remember what that was, but I don't think it's newspapers, and it's obviously not covering the whole floor.
And what that was appears to be just below the table there in the photograph. Something's on the ground.
Yes, and now that I look at the picture, I also remember newspapers spread out on the table, and they're not there.
Okay, so this picture is from February 19th, just to be clear.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us what we're looking at in exhibit 28, please?
Talked about it a couple times. This is the wood slats that I assumed was going to be wood flooring for somewhere in the house that was left to cure. It was new and it was in boxes.
And then to the right of that photograph, that's the front door.
This is the front door, looking out to the front yard.
And exhibit 29, please.
Okay, this is zoomed in, so I'm going to reference this. I just showed you the wood slats and the boxes underneath the front of the house window. This is directly to the right of those wood slats, and that's your front door. That's the well of the bottom of the front door. This area is just a piece of carpet inside the front door, and there was some bleach stains on the carpet.
That's to the right of the...
Objection, the foundation is identified as bleach.
Overruled. Can exclude.
Can we zoom in on that? Have you seen bleach stains on a carpet before?
Yes.
Does that appear to be bleach stains on the carpet there right in the entryway?
It does.
Showing you what's been marked as exhibit 31. You tell us what we're seeing there.
Okay, I'll try to be quick without being too redundant, but this is the dining room table, and there's that island we talked about. This is the base of the staircase going up to the second floor. That's the backyard with the backyard slider. Dining room table, there's that calculator I talked about. It actually looks like it's relatively in the same position. I saw it on the 15th and on the 19th. I doubt it moved. It didn't move very far, if it moved at all. This chair was further over to the right. Those chairs, I don't know where they were, but they weren't there. They weren't at the table. And that little kid's chair was kind of askew, pretty close to where it is.
Okay, so as we're looking at the table there, you said that the chair to the left of the table in that photograph was there on the 15th.
Yes,
And the other two chairs we see on the right of that photograph, those were not there.
they weren't there.
Okay. You indicated earlier on the 15th that you saw a can of paint and something was different about it. You can't recall what it was. Where was that can of paint? Was it in this photograph?
I struggle with this, and I think about it often. It was either, I see all, as you guys are seeing, the photographs are going by, and I've reviewed my photos thousands of times. It was either here or just in front of the, right at the end of the banister on the side where you can't see.
And you're pointing to the lower left of that photograph.
Yes, and now using common sense, we have photographs in the case file from the front door from Deputy Tingley, which shows this view, and there is no paint can there. So even though my memory says that it was here, it must have been just right in front of here, but it was there. I saw it.
But it was not there.
There was a paint can somewhere, but it wasn't there.
And show you exhibit 36. Can you tell us what we're seeing there?
So this is the living room. The dining room table is back here out of view. To the right of the dining room table, this is a futon, which is in the back corner. This would be the back of the house. If you looked out that window, you would see the backyard. Fireplace right there. And this is the futon, which had 2 bowls of popcorn on it on the 15th, and now it doesn't. Actually, I believe that cushion was up. I don't think it was down like that.
What do you mean down like that?
Well, a futon can be used as a couch or it can be used as a bed. And my memory says that on the 15th, this was being used as a couch because I remember the 2 little bowls and I thought, oh, those bowls are, I was guessing. I didn't know the structure of the family. I have 2 little kids because if I ate popcorn, I'd want a bigger bowl than the bowls that were sitting there. And now this is in a bed format, so the bowls are gone and it looks like somebody has just dropped the cushion down.
Can you see the back of it here? Does it look like it's down still?
No, but the cushion could be pushed up. Does that make sense?
No. Can you explain that?
This cushion is, and I remember the texture of it, it was unusual because it didn't have a cover on it. It was fuzzy. It was just like cotton. It was fake cotton, like synthetic cotton, but it was fuzzy. And all you would have to do is lift up on that cushion on the back and it would rest nicely against the back support there and make a couch instead of a bed laying down.
And exhibit 38.
Okay, this is a view from right behind that futon. That's what we were just looking at. And now you're looking into the kitchen area. This is the island I've been referring to, the dining room table, the little chair that was there on both the 15th and 19th, and the counter where the eggs, popcorn, and bananas were. And this is for sure the 19th because this is relatively clean and it had pots and pans, and I actually think there were even a couple drawers pulled out, set on top of the island.
On the 15th.
Yeah, a lot of it's popping as I'm looking at these pictures.
Sure. So on the 15th, there were drawers and other items on top of that kitchen island.
Yeah, as I explained earlier, it looked like on the other side of this island, it's a traditional island where you have your pots and pan drawers, or drawers you can put whatever you want in there, junk drawer. And those drawers had been removed from the island. Some of them were on the ground on the 15th. There was some down here on the ground. And I remember at least one or more up here too, along with pots and pans.
Covered in dirt? Was the whole house covered in dirt?
No.
Was it dirty?
Dirty is a hard word because
It is.
it's so subjective.
It is.
It wasn't disgusting, but it was dirty. They were moving in and nobody had been in there to clean.
Are you looking for, while you're there doing the search warrant, what are you looking for? As a, I guess, a missing persons detective and a homicide detective.
Okay, well, it's still twofold. So, can I address how I get a search warrant?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I knew from the onset that getting a search warrant for this was going to be difficult, and here's the reason why. Although I'm a San Diego County employee, a cop in San Diego, I work under the state judicial system, which means I'm governed by the California Penal Code. In the California Penal Code, there's a section, 1524 of the Penal Code, which basically tells me, here you go, Troy, here's your guidelines, you want a search warrant, follow these guidelines. And now to make it simple, you have to have exigent circumstances that you're gonna save someone's life. I'm giving you examples. You have to be able to prove that you have probable cause to believe a crime was committed that gives you the right to go search what you're looking to search. So I want to search McStay residence, the McStay green truck in the driveway because it's there, and the trooper because why was it down in Mexico? But I have to a judge has to read my affidavit. I have to write up a story as to the facts of the case, evidence and statements, and bring it to a judge. And the judge sits with me, reads my affidavit, and determines if I've gone to the 50% or better level probable cause to believe that a crime had been committed inside that house, in something that links the crime to this residence or the family, that I'm going to get evidence out of the house, the trooper, the Dodge, or somewhere. In a traditional homicide, there's a body in the house. That's an easy one. I write a search warrant, it takes me no time at all to say there's a body in the house, I'm going in, myself and the medical examiner are going to conduct our investigation. I need to search the house, all vehicles, all outbuildings, all curtilage, everything related to this house. That's easy. I don't have a family, I don't have anything that I know is a crime, except I now have a bunch of statements that are bending towards a family of four does not disappear for, on the 19th, 15 days. So where's a family of four after 15 days? And I have statements from the family saying, well, they might have gone on vacation. But now the family's starting to bend over and going, well, this is ridiculous. We're way too long. I have statements from business associates saying, well, we were rich and happy wasn't so true. So I'm going, well, that's unusual. I have family members telling me that Summer had an ex-boyfriend, that the story started to get, as I told you, it's going to get deeper. Some of the dirt's going to come up. The dirt was coming up. I wrote down everything I knew to that point. I took it to the judge. He granted me the search warrant. I searched the house, the trooper, the Dodge, and I left the house.
Okay. So now my question is, what were you looking for?
Okay. I'm looking for, primarily under the search warrant, evidence of a crime. I'm not looking for evidence of a missing person, although that would be nice too. I'm looking for evidence of a crime. And I now believe in my heart, or I can't take it to the judge, that a crime has committed and I'm going to find evidence somewhere in those vehicles or residents that's going to take me further where I can start to prove the crime and find these people.
Okay. So in that regard, you have a crime scene person with you, Dennis Williams?
She was my forensic evidence tech.
Okay. And you're going through the house and you're looking for potentially blood?
Yes.
Okay. You're looking for any signs of struggle?
Absolutely.
Any signs of forced entry?
Yes.
Okay. In your initial review, as you were going through the house, did you notice any of that?
No. Well, let me take that back on the back window.
Okay.
So that in the den of the residence, Michael had told me that in his statement to me on the 15th, I'm interviewing him in my car, and I said, how'd you get in the house? And he said, I met Chase on the 13th, and Chase had already been here. Chase had told me he had been here on the 9th, and Chase told me there was a back window open in the back of the secured backyard, and Michael, these are Michael's words, so I went to the backyard and I crawled in that unlocked, slightly ajar window, took the screen off, crawled in the window, and what I noticed as an investigator during the search warrant is there was a little bit of damage to the blinds, right there where he says I crawled in the window. I later asked him if he did the damage, and he didn't remember doing the damage. Not that it was a big aha moment, but he crawled in that window, and we have minor damage to blinds, and okay, that's what I got. So that's forced entry, but legitimate.
Let me show you Exhibit 39. Ask you, do you recognize that and what it depicts?
Yes. Dining room table. This is on the 19th during search warrant. The calculator I've been talking about, the chair is slightly moved over to this side. It used to be over here. There used to be a coffee cup. None of this stuff was on the table on the 15th, and it's now there.
And you said none of this stuff, that's all, it looks like a beanie.
That's a child's beanie, and I've seen it in many of the McStay photographs on Gianni and little Joseph. And then this leash system became interesting, not so much now, but back in my investigation I was looking for a child's leash system, and that's what that is. It can be attached to your kid if they're prone to run away.
And it looks like a remote control and a Wii remote.
The remote control for sure. What did you call this?
A Wii remote?
Okay.
It's a game system. I'm going to show you exhibit number 40. Ask if you recognize that.
Yes.
What is that?
It's just a zoomed in photograph of the dining room table.
After, well, as you were preparing for trial, you met with Mr. Imes and I. Did we point something out about this photograph?
You did.
Okay. And in particular, zoomed in. To the bottom of the photograph.
You did.
Have you, in your career as a police detective, seen blood spatter?
I have.
So what you see in the bottom part of this photograph, you can't say it's blood, right?
I can't say it's blood. It's a horrible moment where I don't know what it is. I did not see it with my naked eyes when I was in the residence at all. And now that the district attorney zoomed it in, it puts a pit in my stomach, but I don't know what it is. I can't say it's blood, and I can't say it isn't blood.
Does blood dry in a specific pattern?
It does.
How does it
There's actually
dry?
no foundation.
Sustained equilibrium foundation.
You receive training as to how blood spatter or blood will dry.
I went to a 40-hour course by the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department for blood pattern analysis.
Does blood dry in a specific manner?
Yes.
How?
It traditionally, obviously, dries at where it's the thinnest on an object. If it's blood that's spattered onto an object, the outside or the thinnest edges are going to dry first, and then the thicker or the raised area is going to dry later. And in this, what you see is skeletonized. We call it skeletonized drop of something.
Well, more than one drop.
A lot of drops.
By the way, who taught the class? You said it was San Bernardino County Sheriff. Who taught the class?
It was a lot of years ago. It was before this,
Okay.
so I don't know.
Can you say that in your experience as a detective, as a homicide detective, at least it's consistent with blood?
It could be blood.
And you said you didn't see it with the naked eye.
No.
And there are reasons for that, right?
Yes, I don't like to make excuses, but there are reasons.
What are some of them?
The reasons for not seeing this with the naked eye, what you're seeing even in this photo where it's not zoomed in, you're seeing the table and it is highly illuminated right here. There's a reason for that illumination, and it's called a flash. And a flash is obviously it's a camera flash. Our digital camera has a not so modern flash. It just illuminates the table really bright. Because of that bright light source, it's much easier to see dirt and whatever that is, where the naked eye could be sitting right there. We actually worked on this table, and I'm not talking just Detective Troy DuGal. I was one of the ones who worked at that table, but our whole team, and I had like 10 people searching with us, and we looked at baseboards, ceilings, walls, floors, behind toilets, lift the toilet lid. That's the way we searched. Several of us sat at this table, and that was not seen because of, I'm going to go with light source, the naked eye. It's very close to the same color as the table, very small, and not obvious.
I'll show you exhibit 47. Tell us what we're looking at there.
This is the top of the island, and that's obviously a toothbrush, a glass case, some child spoons, and an alternative light source. That's what, in law enforcement, we call it alternative light source. It's just a handheld black light.
It's not an LED light? It's an alternative light source? What's an alternative light source?
Alternative light source is a light that will cast a, this is where I could use my forensic evidence tech. But it casts a different light where things that aren't apparent will now become apparent. Black light's the best example I have of alternative light source. You can, in the lab they use yellow light and blue light and red light, and that'll bring out and amplify all kinds of things.
So that was something either you or one of your forensic techs brought to the scene?
No.
No? Or,
This photograph was taken, and I should maybe be more specific about that. Before I go in and I search a residence, the forensic evidence technician, I tell her, I do knock a notice at the door, that's required by law, saying Sheriff's Department with a search warrant, demanding entry, let us in. Do that a few times, and then we make entry. In this case, it was nice because we were able to make entry. I ended up with I think we ended up with a key. We got in here, I don't remember how. Anyway, we get in legally. Search warrant, legal means to get in the house. Once we get into the house, I stop. I don't go in. I tell forensic evidence technician Dennis Williams to go in with her camera and photograph everything. And she literally walks in, and keep in mind, because I'm sure you'll hear from her, she walks in the door and she walks into the doorway, and then she takes pictures. Chick, 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 and she takes that whole room. And then she moves, and maybe she'll go to the next doorway and turn her back towards that room and do it again. And then she'll go to the next room and do it again and do it again. It's just so DAs can hit detectives later in life with this kind of thing. But the truth is, it's to document the scene for evidentiary purposes, exactly how the house was before Detective DuGal goes in and puts his fingers on things. That's what it's for. This photograph is part of that series.
And that alternative light source is not yours or Miss Williams's?
No.
There would be no reason to photograph it, okay?
And I would have been, so one more thing. Dennis Williams was a very experienced, she's retired now, but she was a very experienced forensic evidence tech even then. You're going to find out she's a little older than me, and I'm old. And when we did this together, she goes at my direction for what has to occur. Now, we've worked together, even on this point, we had worked together for 2 years, so when I said, go make entry, photograph the house, I don't have to follow her and direct a photo there, a photo there. She knows, she just goes in and does it. She photographs the whole house. Then as we start to search, there's much more direction, where she's just walking around with a camera, evidence collection tools, and she's waiting for me to say, that's evidence, collect it, document it, let's go. It makes it very nice for me because I can keep my mind on task. I don't have to go, oh, I got to collect this evidence, put the gloves on. She does all that. So I'm just thinking, looking, search team is telling me what they're seeing, and then I direct her what to do.
Just a few more. Exhibit 51. you tell us what we're seeing there, sir?
Well, you asked me about a paint can. This is the type of paint can I remember seeing, but it wasn't there, it was here. The trash can, the drawers are back in the island, so this is, I can tell you right now, it's the 19th. There's painter's tape on the floor because somebody was painting that white, obviously. There's white runoff from the paint there. This is the staircase leading upstairs. There's the dining room table, there's a futon, and this was a little storage cabinet with, I think later in the search warrant I found some thumb drives or something in there. There was documents.
You indicated there was runoff. Is that what you were talking about there to the left of the trash can?
Yes. Right there, somebody had painted the baseboard and the paint ran onto the tape.
I'll show you exhibit 66. Ask you to recognize that. What, if you do, what we're looking at?
Wow. I believe we're in the, oh, you could have shown me a better picture. We're either in Joseph's den or in the garage, but this is a box of documents, and I do remember that. So once again, going back to my thought process, if I go through and I say, Dennis, I want that marked as evidence, she'll pull a placard. This is called a placard, that yellow piece with a number on it, and she will set a placard on that piece of what I've deemed as evidence, and we move on. We don't stop. I say, this is evidence, she'll put placard 1. Oh, I think this cup right here is evidence, she'll put placard 2. And we just keep on moving through the whole house. And then another detective will come up and say, hey, Troy, I think I found something up in the bedroom. And okay, we'll get there, we get up to the bedroom, that's evidence, placard, whatever, 15. So what you're looking at is, she has marked something in this box as evidence, and something in this container as evidence. I don't specifically remember, I'd have to look at the report, but I bet it's the computer and checks.
And those were in the office of the McStay resident?
Yeah, like I said, I think this is the office, but there was some uncluttered portions of the office, and then the garage was so uncluttered, so since you're so zeroed in, it's hard to tell. I think it was the office, so.
Let me interrupt you at this point. We'll go ahead and take our evening recess in a minute. Tomorrow, one of our jurors is not available in the afternoon, so tomorrow we're only going to be here in the morning. We'll be here in normal morning hours, 9:30 to 12, and then when we take our noon recess at 12, that'll be it for the day. We won't come back at 1:30. Okay? Again, keep in mind the admonitions previously given to you, not to form or express any opinions about the case, not to discuss the case, or allow anyone to discuss the case with you or in your presence. Again, that means not discussing anything about the case, any of the witnesses, testimony, exhibits, parties, or attorneys, and of course, not to read anything about the case or any of the people involved in the case, and not to watch any of the video coverage about the case or any of the people involved in the case. Well, that will see everyone back 9:30 tomorrow morning. And DuGal, we'll meet you back at 9:30 tomorrow.